Is Tendo here with another video. On this section today we'll be speaking about Python. Python is a programming language that we'll be using for the next couple of weeks. So we need to know about Python. So just like any other programming language, it has got all other things that you will expect from any other programming language. So if you are new to programming, this should be fine as well. If you have experience in programming, meaning you've programmed in other programming languages like Java, C#, C++, web development either with MVC, HTML, Angular, any other programming language you could have come across, this should be easy as well to adapt to. Okay, so what do you need in order for you to be able to execute Python programs? So there are two things you need to do, right? So the first one, you need to go and on your browser, and then within your browser you need to navigate to Python. Just search for Python. When Python pops up, you need to click on www.python.org. So once you're navigating on Python.org, it will bring up something like this, right? So you can go through all this documentation if you are interested in reading about Python, why it was developed, some of the few things that are interesting on Python. Here is some of the syntax of how it works. So if you're already familiar with programming, you should be seeing something that you are familiar with here. And what you are looking for here is on the download. So if you click on the download here, it takes you to the latest version that you must download. So the current latest version here is Python 3.90. So it both run on Windows, it can run on Linux or Unix, it can also run on Mac OS and other operating systems which are out there. Right. So if you are interested in other versions as well, you can also look into other versions as well. There is one which has already come to the end of its life, which is Python 2.7. You don't need to be running this one because it doesn't have any support anymore. And then you have got few of them which still has some few days, like Python 3.6, Python 3.7. But then the current one, you can see the end of support will end in 2025. So this is quite good. So if you want, you can download this Python program. It's not a huge file, so it will download. I already have Python installed, so on my case it will just be a matter of upgrading. So this is the compiler which comes with all the SDK that you are looking for. So I'm going to open that file which I've just downloaded and attempt to install it. So I'm just gonna hit the default settings. I'm not gonna change much. So my machine is already running on 64-bit, so this should be fine already. While this is installing, I will also want to introduce another software that we will be using as our IDE, right, as our integrated development environment. So the same way you will have Visual Studio for running your .NET applications, the same way you will have Eclipse, NetBeans for running your Java applications, is the same way where we will need another application to run our Python programs, right? So there are few Python IDEs that we can use, but I prefer this one called PyCharm. So there's a software from JetBrains called PyCharm. The reason I prefer this one is because it has got a lot of updates, right? A lot of support. There's a huge community forum around it. So, you know, and it's very cool when you're programming using PyCharm. So that's the other software that you will need. I already have PyCharm installed in my case, so I don't really need it that much. So there we go. This is PyCharm. If you are interested in installing PyCharm, you can go ahead and press download. It will download, and make sure that you don't select the enterprise one. You go for the community version. Right? We all know that community version are the best, so you'll navigate to the community version one. Right. So while my Python is downloading here and installing, I have advised you already to go and make sure that you have PyCharm installed on your machine. You could run Python on Notepad++. You could run Python on Notepad. You could run Python on Visual Studio. So there is no limitations. You can run it on anywhere else wherein it's supported, right? As long as you'll be able to pinpoint where is Python installed so that you are able to run it yourself. Okay, now it's installing the documentation, then the utility scripts, which we really need that much, because I told you this comes already with a compiler and interpreter together with the development kit that you need. And there are also some support structures that you can utilize here on Python, and you can run it directly on command prompt. So it comes with its own command prompt wherein you can execute from it, and those are some of the few examples that we'll start at. So while it is opening, I already told you that you must install PyCharm. I'm just simply going to open my PyCharm application. It is almost done and my PyCharm is busy opening. And as I've said, PyCharm it's a product of JetBrains. JetBrains is one of those organizations that have got a lot of IDEs, a lot of cool things that they're building for developers. So Python has been installed. Simply gonna close there. So my PyCharm now it's loading. Right, I think it's almost done. There we go. So this will become the environment for PyCharm, wherein you normally do not have this section here. This is the environment for PyCharm. You can see it looks similar to other environments like NetBeans, Visual Studio, wherein you've got your project on the side, you've got your working frame here. This is your environment where you'll be putting in your code. It lies here, and there are other familiar tools as well, like the edit, the view, the navigation, the code, running the project itself, some tools that are found in there, some windows that you might have been be needing within your project, right? So lastly, before we even start with any project, I'll just want to show you that Python is indeed installed, and as you can see, there is few files that have just been recently added, right? So I can either click any of those and it will take me to the actual, this is now the where I can find more support on Python, right? Can find more documents, more libraries that I'm looking for if they are missing. So there are those things that we can get on Python. And mind you, this is the latest Python that we're dealing with. There are also other files. You can see there's also an ideal one for Python here. There we go. This is where we can easily quickly type our Python project, right? So we are not going to be using any of these for now. I just want to use a perfect IDE which is called PyCharm to navigate through our programs. Okay, so that is it for now. What we have done on this lesson, we have learned what do we need to run Python. We basically just need two software. The first one is Python itself, which I've showed you that you navigate to Python by going to python.org, and then you go to the downloads and you download the latest release, which is 3.9. That's what we'll be using on this lesson. After installing the latest release, I told you to navigate to PyCharm. Just go to jetbrains.com and look for PyCharm. You should find PyCharm IDE, and then download the one which is a free version, right? Meaning the community one. Do not download the developer one. Do not download the enterprise version. Just download the community version, and then we should be good to go for all this lesson. Okay, so that will be it for this lesson. I shall see you in the next lesson where we'll be doing our first program.